Today's Shiur, Beis Hashem, will be on the Parshas Vayechi. A little bit different than the regular. Usually it's on a topic of the Parsha. Here we're going to go through some interesting, call it changes, halachas, that are negeya to the Keriah of the Parsha. If you got an aliyah either last week, Parshas Vayigash, Mafter, or Shvi, Achron, or if you're a Kohen, and you got Parshas Vayechi, you saw it B'chush, what Rashi brings in the name of the Medrash. Rashi says Parshas Vayechi is stuma. What does stuma mean? Stuma doesn't mean that it's a samach instead of a pei, meaning to say between parshas there's a space. Either there's a pei, which means that you leave space from the end of the line of the parsha. You have a parsha at the end of the parsha, wherever it ends on the line, you leave it blank till the end of the line, and then you start the next line, the next parsha. That's a pei, and then a samach is you leave minimum 9 letters. So when Rashi says, Chazal say parshas u stuma, it doesn't mean it's a samach, it's stuma as opposed to psucha. It means stuma that there's no hefsek b'chlal. It actually makes it a little harder if you're a Bal Keriah and you want to start aliyah to find it. It's literally from one word to the next. I got this week one day shlishi, so I was actually trying to find it, but you have to follow along with the Bal Keriah. So I wanted to just see Taka where the Vayechi starts. Who Taka said that it's another parsha? Parshas u stuma. Who said it's another parsha? Maybe it's Taka not another parsha. Maybe Vayechi is actually part of Vayigash and it's not another parsha. So the Mizrahi and the Keriah, both, the Maral, they both say that we know it, we have a Kabbalah from Ezra HaSefer. That's what they say, that's how we know. Ezra HaSefer is known. Ezra HaSefer wrote a Sefer Torah, that it was in the second Beis Hamikdash. Ezra HaSefer, as is Mavur, that if not for Moshe Rabbeinu, Ezra HaSefer would have been the one that would be Moser HaTorah. I spoke about it, either it was last year or the year before, that Tes Tevis last week, the day before Asar B'Tevis, is brought in Shulchan Aruch as a fast day, because it was the day that the Ezra HaSefer was nifter. So they say that the way how we know, interesting, you learn Rashi says Parshas u stuma, and who said? Because we have a Kabbalah from Ezra HaSefer what the Parshas are.
The Gemara says that in Eretz Yisrael they used to finish the Torah every 3 years. So you see that it's not like it's halach from Moshe Sinai. How to break it up?
It is that it's a different Parsha. That's even if they laid every 3 years, the Parshas. It's for sure a separate Parsha. Very good. Very good. You're pointing out well, the Lamaisa, even if we don't lay in every Shabbos another full Parsha, like some had the minhag to split a Parsha into 3, but still it's another Parsha.
What's in the gate another Parsha besides laying in the Shabbos?
It's not, Rashi stelzach, the Medrash stelzach, Parshas u stuma, and Rashi says, why? So Rashi Shekivan.
This Kabbalah, it's a separate Parsha. What's the nafkamina of a separate Parsha, not a separate Parsha?
So
Gimel Psukim, no? What's up like Gimel Psukim? The aliyahs can't stop before Gimel Psukim.
But that has to be that would be from one parsha to the next. That's an interesting shaila. Like let's say if that's a samach or a pei or another inyan over here. If it goes straight, I wonder tak if you would have to the Gimel Psukim halacha. I don't know. Lamai nafkamina ladina that it's a different parsha. I don't know.
You write a Sefer Torah and you leave a break, you're not supposed to. It's not a possible Sefer Torah.
So again, it's
No, that's the halachas. If it's stuma, it's psucha. The shaila is it negay la halacha? How many parshas? That this has the din of a parsha. This one actually is not in the writing of the Sefer Torah. Everything else is the pasuk by the Birchas Yaakov by Shimon V'Levi. The pasuk says, "Arur apam ki az." Zok the Gemara The Gemara says these are from the psukim in the Torah she'ein lem hechra, meaning to say we don't know if the word oror goes with oror apam ki os, like we have the pasuk, it goes further, or maybe you're supposed to read it ki ba'apam hargu ish uver tsoynam ikru shoyer oror, means maybe the oror goes back on the pasuk before. It's a Gemara. Therefore, is mavur in Shar Ephraim. Shar Ephraim is the sefer on Hilchas Kriyas HaTorah. It's like the Shar Ephraim, because the Gemara says that we don't know where this word oror goes back or on forth. Zok the Shar Ephraim, the Bal Keriah shouldn't be Bachriya. You should say it straight. In other words, without a safe pasuk. Over tzoynam ikru shoyer oror apam. Just go straight. And the lashon of Shar Ephraim is v'hakadosh baruch hu yodei hachrois. And the Rabbi Shalom, he'll be the one to be machriya where the oror should go. This is the Shar Ephraim. Lamaisa, it's very interesting. Lamaisa, we're not noig like that. The minig is, and you'll see for yourself, the Shabbos, the Bal Keriah is going to stop over tzoynam ikru shoyer, and he stops a safe pasuk. So what's the pshat? The Shar Ephraim says that we shouldn't be machriya. Lamaisa, the Ritva over there on that Gemara, the Gemara says, the Ritva says that when the Gemara says that we don't know where it goes back or forth, that's if not for the trop, if not for the taimei akra. If there wouldn't be taimei akra, then we wouldn't know. But now Lamaisa we have taimei akra, which means we have a safe pasuk, so we know how it goes. Maybe we know. Oh, very good. So first of all, you're asking, what does the Gemara mean? Eilam hechra. The Ritva says Eilam hechra means if not for the taimei akra, then we wouldn't know. But if other now we know. Other things we would know how to read it even without taimei akra.
The Shar Ephraim was too for coming to say answer that kasha. I follow the trop. The trop there is not really understand. There is no trop.
Good. You're asking. I'm being miyashiv what the olam is like, so you're asking back what's pshat in the Shar Ephraim. I don't know. However, what I do want to tell you is the Marsha, this is in Chagiga, a little bit connected to what we're learning in Masechtas Chagiga. The Marsha in Chagiga says that because we forgot the trop, that's why it's Eilam Hechra. The next halacha or minig lagabi the Kriyas HaTorah in this week's parsha, the Ramah in Hilchas Sefer Torah brings a minig of seifrim vavei ha'amudim, meaning to say every amud of a Sefer Torah should have a vav. Vavei ha'amudim. The Ramah brings it's a minig. The Beis Yosef brings the Agoyas Maiminis, as well as also the Martcha brings that the Rambam holds like that, not to do it. Not to have every top of the Amud to have a Vav. You follow what I'm saying? You go through the first letter of every single Amud in the Sefer Torah has a Vav.
Like Hamelach Megillah.
What'd say?
Like the Hamelach Megillah.
Yeah, very good, like the Hamelach Megillah, yeah. So every Vav, you look, actually that's what we do. But the Ramah says the minig of Seifrim is to have every single Amud to have a Vav. The Cholkim say not to do it, very stark not to do it, and they say it's puzzle. Why? Because to start doing that, you look in our Melech Megillah, you have the long tufts and the long reishes. So if you want to figure out how to make a Vav on the top of every Amud, you're going to start stretching letters and making letters very small. Memela, they say not to do it. Not to do it. And they bring that even if you'll figure out in a way to write it, that it's actually not going to stretch letters, you still shouldn't, because the next person's going to come and is going to do it as you're going to stretch. We're going to soon hear from the Bal Keriah Taka Lamaisa. Give me a minute. How did they what?
How they start to say Keriah.
Oh, we're going to get to that mamash in a minute. Very good. Because the first letter is Bereshis. We'll get to that in a minute. Mamash in a minute. Interesting, the Kesivas Sefer, that's from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. That is a classical sefer on Hilchas Safras. I actually just want to read the Haskam of the Chassam Sefer on the Kesivas Sefer. Very stark Haskam, and he writes, once this sefer comes out, a person cannot be a sefer without knowing the sefer. So he writes, interesting, like a starke lashon. He says, "Ani poikid al kol talmudai on my talmidim, shemiyoim hatfosa sefer kesses a sefer." Once this sefer is printed, a mekan ve'elach leyitnu reshus ksav kabbalah for any sefer to be able to write without knowing the sefer. Anyways, the Kesivas HaSofer writes, he brings that there was a Tikkun Koyim written by Rabbi Yehuda Pisa. The name of it was called Ezra HaSofer, the help for the Sofer. And he writes a Tikkun Koyim and he maps it out how to be able to write the whole Sefer Torah with Vav Amudim, every Vav on each one, on the top of each Amud. And he writes, he's mesnatzel, he says, "B'chilas kvoid, t'agoyes maiminis," that you say that you have to stretch letters. I'm showing you can write it without stretching. That's what he writes. Says the Kesivas HaSofer, "B'chilas kvoid," this Sofer, you open up his Tikkun Koyim, and you see over there, he uses the lashon bertzoisai marchev or bertzoisai makatzer. We have in Yom Kippur by night the nusach. But he says, you look over there, even the first Amud already, he's starting to stretch and shrink letters. So what are you saying there? You could, in other words, back to why you shouldn't do it, because stretching letters. Lamaisa, the Tikkun Koyim that I have, we have a few of them over here, Simonim, you look, Lamaisa, it is Vav Amudim, and there's no stretch letters. The Sefer Torah have a Vav on the top, is that right? All? We'll get to the 6 letters, very good. That's why it's Negei here. I'm not giving Epis Hilchas Sefer Torah, we're going to get to it because it's some letters that are taka not. Lamaisa, our Sefer Torah taka have a Vav on the top, and you'll look, there are no stretched letters. Take the Tikkun Koyim Simonim, you look at it, all the top is Vav, and there's no stretched letters. So what's going on over here? Lamaisa, there's a very important factor to know. How many lines are there on an Amud? That makes a very big difference. Could you play around with the amount of lines on each Amud? So some say there should be 42 Keneged the Mem Beis Masois. The Chassam Sofer says minimum 48. So Mamela, depending how many lines, would also, you have to cheshbon out. In other words, you could have a computer and you can cheshbon everything out, but it has to, how many lines are there on an Amud to be able to figure out. So that's, Atkan is in general, Vavei Amudim. So good, this is stam a nice idea for everybody to know. What is the Negeya to today's Shiur, Parshas Vayechi? The Ramah brings yet another minhag. And this is even if you do not do Vavei Amudim, which means you're not makbid that every Amud should start with a Vav. There's a different minhag HaSofrim of Bika Shemai. Bika the Eibish's name, Beis Yud Hey Shin Mem Vav. There are 6 letters, 6 words in the Torah that those 6 words are supposed to be Berosh Amud. You look at the Shach over there, Mem, I think everybody agrees, is Ba'toivu Oyolacha. Shin, Shemai, Shin, there's a few different Mahalchim, either Shoftim, the Hey, Bika, the Hey, I think also everyone agrees, Abba Mitzrayma, before the Shiur and Parshas B'Shalach. But it's Bika, Yud. What's the Yud? The Yud is this week's Parsha. So again, if you'll get the Aliyah, you'll check out, you'll see if you get the Aliyah by Berchas Yaakov, the Yud of Yehuda. Yehuda ato Yeducha Achecha. The art school has a star, and on the bottom it says here, Berosh Amid B'Kashamai. In this week's Parsha, Yehuda ato Yeducha. So the Shach says, which Yud? Yeducha, the third word. Reb Kiveger says no, the minhag HaSofer is not the third word Yeducha, but actually the first word Yehuda. Why? He says a Klara Cheshbon. Just like we said before, you can't stretch letters. Before the word Yehuda at Yeducha, there's a pei, which means there's a blank till the end of the line. So if you're going to write Yehuda Ata, that has to start, Yehuda starts at the beginning of a line. And then Yeducha has to be Bereisha Amid, so it means the line, the bottom of the previous column only has 2 words. You're following? Because before Yehuda, there's a blank till the end of the line. So Yehuda starts on a new line. And how many words on that line? Only 2. Yehuda Ata, because Yeducha already is Bereisha Amid. So therefore says Reb Kiveger that it's not Yeducha, it's Yehuda. Bereisha Amid is Yehuda. And then I saw also, when I got the Aliyah yesterday or Monday, I saw also Taka, it's the Yehuda. I think that's the minig to do Yehuda. Just Lamara Makam, this that the Shach says that it's Yeducha, there's only 2 words before. So this goes into a different machlokes, Ve'inkan Mekaymai, there's a machlokes in Rambam and the Rosh, Pei and Samach. This is a separate discussion. And the Kesivas Sefer says that Lafi the Rosh Yitake Kudu Yeducha. So this is the next thing of the next halacha minig, so to speak, in the Keriah Atayra, the Yud of Yeducha. The end of the parsha, Vayechi, being that it's the last parsha of Chumash Bereshis, you'll see these 4 lines blank. And it's a Gemara. The Gemara Basra says that in between Chumashim, you're supposed to have a blank, 4 lines blank. The first Tosfos in Gittin, Tosfos the Ri brings B'Shem Rabbi Goyen and Rabbi Sadia Goyen. It's speaking in Hilchas Gittin, and Tosfos says, why does a get have 12 lines? Zok Tosfos, because the Torah says it's called a Sefer Krisis to be Kairis, to tear apart, to separate between a husband and a wife. Dr. Sadia and Rabbi Goyen, where do we, what? Hayois by a Sefer Torah. These lines separate from one Chumash to the next. And there are, if you add up all the in-betweens of Chumashim, there are 12 lines. So that's why a get has 12 lines. L'maisa, there's more than 12 lines. If there's 4 lines between every chumash, so between Bereshis and Shemos, 16. There's 5 chumashim. 5 chumashim. So how many in-betweens are there between Bereshis, Shemos, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Midbar, Dvarim? So these 4 in-betweens. 4 times 4 is 16. Zok Tosfos, Mishnah Torah Devarim is not counted. So mainly we only have 4 chumashim. In between the 4 is 12 lines. In Yonenu, that's another thing. You'll get mafta, you get chazak. You'll see there's going to be 4 lines in between to be mafsik being chumash l'chumash. So just to be masakim, we spoke about the first pointer, Parshas Ustuma, that there's no blank, and we know that it's a separate parsha from Ezra Sofer. We spoke about Bereisha Amid, B'Kash Shemai, the Yehuda is on top of the Amid, the Arur, the Gemara says Ein La Hechra, the Dalat Shitin. Now we're going to go over to something that's not in the Sefer Torah, but rather a minig. The Ramah says in Hilchas Keriah Torah Siman Kuf Lamed Tes, the Ramah says that the minig is that when somebody's oilel Torah, you say chazak. This is like the Ramah. The Ramah brings it, but it's actually the minig of the Svardim. Yeah, the Svardim after every Aliyah, chazak baruch. The Chaim brings it. That's the minig of the Svardim. Davud Raham, from the Rishonim, Davud Raham says that the minig is after every chumash to say chazak. I'm going to go through a few protei dinim in this minig of saying chazak. Who says chazak? I mean, everybody says it, but who says chazak? The poskim say that the oilel HaTorah should not say chazak. Why? Chazak, as we'll soon see why we say it, is a bracha to the person who's oilel HaTorah. You're being mavorech, the tzibur is being mavorech, the oil Torah. By the way, why is chazak a special aliyah? For this reason. Because the person who gets the aliyah of chazak, the whole shul is giving him a bracha, chazak. So Mamela, if everybody's benching you, the oil Torah, so you don't say chazak, you're giving yourself a bracha. B'doima, the Rambam says that a chasen is not supposed to get sheva brachas. Why? Because the sheva brachas is a bracha for the chasen. So the chasen is giving himself a bracha. So here chazak, being that it's a bracha for the oil Torah, the oil Torah shouldn't say chazak.
Nothing to do. It wouldn't be. Let's say that wouldn't be the case. It wouldn't be. Let's say you would be able to say it, and it's a bracha for everyone. Hypothetically. It wouldn't be a hefsek, right?
Oh, very good. Meshulam, excellent. This is reason number 2. We'll get to mamash in a second. And I like what you're saying. Let's say this wouldn't be the reason. Would there be another problem? Issue for the oilah to say, very good. I'll even point out why it may not be such an issue. The Lamaisa, for those that listen to Mishnah Torah, Shana Rabbah by night, you read the whole Devarim. A lot of places the minig is that after you finish the whole Devarim, you say Chazaku. I don't have the minig of Mishnah Torah to Keriah, but I've heard that the minig is, but people say Chazak afterwards. So, could be it's a minig, and people don't know. That could also be. But those that are Mayashiv, that you say Chazak v'nis chazek. We should all be mischazak. So that, all of us, including myself, so then even the oil Torah. Why am I saying that? Because really we're saying it by Mishnah Torah, nobody gets an aliyah over there. So who are you saying chazak to? If we're benching the oila Torah, Mishnah Torah, no one's oila. So the teretz is chazak is not only for the oila Torah, it's also for everybody. So that's why you could say it as Shana Rabbah by night when there's no one got the aliyah. If that's the case, because it's for everybody, so that even the oila Torah could also say it, not worse off than if he's part of everybody else. So for this reason of not to say it because not mevarach la'atzmai, you can hear maybe that you could say it. But there's yet another reason why the oil Torah should not say chazak. Very good, like Meshulam pointed out, it's a hefsek. Who says that it's a hefsek? A whole list. The Kesivas HaShulchan of Chaim Noah, the Be'er Moshe, the Betzinarov, the Vriyatzev, the Ephraim. Talmidim of Rav Moshe said that Rav Moshe used to tell the oil Torah of the chazak not to say because it's a hefsek. It's a hefsek. What's the raya that it's a hefsek? The hefsek to what? Obviously the hefsek is to the bracha of afterwards, right? Right after the aliyah, after you Keriah b'Torah, you make another bracha. That bracha is a bracha shalachrei of the Keriah Torah. What's the raya that's saying chazak would be a hefsek? And this is negate to this week's parsha also. The B'kur Yaakov brings the Eliyah Rabbah. The Eliyah Rabbah says that the minig is that by the aliyah of Kol HaNa'arim, that the kids are oila on Simchas Torah, you say Hamalach HaGoyel, and we say it also, but we say it after the bracha. But the Eliyah Rabbah brings the minig was to say it before the bracha, the second bracha of Oila Torah. That was the minig. Hamalach HaGoyel, the pasuk of this week's parsha, zok the B'kur Yaakov, why it's a hefsek? Zok the B'kur Yaakov, it's not a problem because it's psukim of Torah. You make a bracha afterwards on the Torah. So even though it's a pasuk in the Torah that you said al peh, but it's a pasuk in the Torah, so maybe it's not a hefsek. B'doima, the Kohen Gadol, when on Yom Kippur, when he used to read to Mishnah, when he used to read the psukim, the Mishnah says Yoser, and he used to read other psukim al peh, and then he made the bracha. So it's not a hefsek. But oifen to say chazak, that's not psukim in the Torah, would be a hefsek. So maybe this is yet another reason why the oilul Torah should not say chazak. It's interesting actually. Some say that you should not give the Bal Keriah the aliyah he doesn't have to say it, but the way it is that everybody says chazak, chazak, and then the Balkaira says it before the bracha. You really have to say it, but the Maisa the Balkaira says it. So if the Balkaira is going to get the aliyah, you can't say chazak, so maybe you should rather not get the aliyah. But just on the note of hefsek, back to the hefsek, that could be a problem. The Sharatzion is mesupik. If somebody spoke out after Kriyas HaMegillah, before the bracha, afterwards, somebody spoke out, it could be he can't make that bracha. Haravas Rivenu. He says could be, yeah, because could be it's a berachas hashvach. It's not connected to the Megillah. But al kapan chazak, what could be a hefsek? L'maisa b'di'evid, if you see that the Oilel HaTorah said chazak, you don't have to run up and tell him, whoa, you can't make a bracha afterwards. The poskim say b'di'evid, it's okay to say chazak. It's interesting to note the Minhag Chabad, as well as it's brought that the Stipler, among others, were noyig l'tchatchila that the Oilel HaTorah said chazak. So could be it's not a hefsek because since it's the minhag, so it's part of it. So it's questionable. But just to note, the ones that don't do it, it's because it's a hefsek.
Stipler was not 50 yesterday?
Yes. Brought an Orchis Rabbeinu.
The Balancer Rebbe said that it's not a hefsek, it's like saying pass the salt when you're making a motzi.
It's called L'tzorech. So it's interesting, very interesting. If you have, it's written somewhere inside. If you could share with me, but very interesting. It's called L'tzorech. I had a mind, just because you brought this up, I had a mind a little bit different, that because that's the minhag, not to get off topic, but I've spoken about it over here. There's a whole shiloh with the shechiyanu by Kiddush. The lady has already made shechiyanu earlier. If it's considered a hefsek, maybe they can't say amen. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman says that because it's part of the Kiddush, it's not a hefsek. So because it's part that everyone says chazak, it's not a hefsek. You're saying a little different. I think even starker. The Pshaz, you're allowed to speak out because it's a tzorech. Lamaisa.
There's a minhag about the akdomis. The person brings that they said akdomis after the bracha.
After the bracha, before laning.
Yeah. So
They speak about over there why it's not a
I
hefsek.
think that the tzorech. I mean, person say you shouldn't do it, but
The tzad to do it is weiter. It's a chelik of it. Shvuas, the akdom is very interesting. Taka, yeah.
They read one pasuk first, and then they go down.
Lamaisa, if somebody, the poskim actually bring, if somebody's Oilel HaTorah, and Lamaisa you want to say chazak, if his minhag is l'tchatchila to say, so you say. And if you don't say, you don't say. But Lamaisa you could say it afterwards also. You could say it after the bracha. Why do we say chazak? Why? So the Pri Chadash says two reasons. Reason number one, he says, Torah is mateshes koicha shel adam. You learn Torah, it makes a person shvacha. So therefore, we're mevarich. I mean, the bracha, as we mentioned, is a bracha for the Oilel HaTorah. Chazak, you should get koiches, because you learn Torah, you become shvach. The second reason he says is that the Gemara says, Daled Dvarim, the Gemara, brachas, taf lamed beis, amad beis, Daled Dvarim tzrichem chizek, b'chol yoyim. I think the lashon is, you need chizek. One of them is Torah, and another one's Maisim Tovim, and the Gemara brings a pasuk, Shenema chazak v'amotz. Chazak b'Torah v'amotz b'Maisim Tovim. So chazak is b'Torah, so it's a bracha, chazak, to be mischazak b'Torah. The nusach, what do we say? Many, a lot say chazak, v'nis chazek. Minhag Ashkenaz, the Yekis say chazak, not chazak, but chazak, v'nis chazak. I'll read a pasuk in Shmuel. Over there, actually, it's with a pasuk, but that's a diktuk if it's at the end of a pasuk. The El Yerabah brings the minhag to say chazak 3 times. We say chazak, v'nis chazek. He says to say chazak, and he says because it's gematria Moshe. The Aruch HaShulchan says Nachum to say it that way. That was the minhag of the Chassam Sofer. Others. Just to close the shiur with 2 more pointers. Benegei Chazak, real small nekudas. The Heintiger bring to close the Sefer Torah before you say Chazak. I didn't see it earlier in Makar. Could be it's a Milsa Dapshit, and they say B'daima, when you get an Aliyah, you're supposed to close the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishabur over there. You're supposed to close the Sefer Torah before you say the bracha after the Aliyah. Why? Shelo Yoimru, that the brachas are also in the Torah. So Mamela over here also, the Pasha says you should close the Sefer Torah before you say Chazak. And one more Nakuda also brought more like the, so to speak, the minig. It's not brought early, about standing. To stand by Chazak. Even though people stand up already, you'll see by the last pasuk, when it becomes the last pasuk, it gets up, it's not about the last pasuk, it's just that you should be prepared for Chazak. The bracha is that we should be zoichetaka, the Chazak, like the Pri Chadash says, Sai Chazak, the Torah is mateshes, so we should get the koiches, and Sai we should taka be mischazik, in limit at Torah, like the Gemara says, Dalad Dvarim Tzrichem Chizik, and one of them is Torah, Shneim Chazak. Have a wonderful Shabbos.